Tonight on SportsBuzz, we talk everything about this weekend's Super Bowl matchup as well as NBA trades as the trade deadline approaches. We get into some college basketball, and we can't forget about the Premier League as the January transfer window closes. All that and more tonight on SportsBuzz. Welcome back to SportsBuzz alongside my co-host Cody Jones. I'm Gino Ganello, and we have a special guest joining us today on the desk right off the top, Alex Moore. Guys, I got to tell you guys, I'm playing a little hurt today. I hurt my hand earlier today. I'm trying to put in an MVP performance like Tom Brady did last week or 2 weeks ago for you guys. I'm going to do my best. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. I mean, not playing hurt like you, obviously, but very excited to be here tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Alex, we're going to get right into things now. You know, the Super Bowl's approaching. It's a big week. You know, Cody and I have talked about this at length, but we'll start with you. What's your Super Bowl prediction for this weekend?
Well, of course, we're going to expect another close game, as that's become the trend over the last 15 or 20 years especially. And, of course, every Super Bowl that the Patriots have played in has come down to the last quarter, so I expect nothing less this year as well.
All right, so, Cody, you heard Alex's take. Now, what do you think?
I really think this is the year that the Eagles can take it. I mean, some of the keys for them is going to be that defense. They have a really strong defense up front, so they're going to need to, put the pressure on Brady and be able to kind of play their game. And also Nick Foles, who's been filling in, kind of a great effort by him, through the playoffs and towards the end of the season, stepping in for Carson Wentz and all that. So definitely think that this is the year the Eagles can kind of pull it out. So.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. The Eagles it's going to be tough for them. It's been tough for them basically since Carson Wentz got hurt. What do you think the key factor is for them in beating the Patriots?
Well, again, like I said, it's going to be stopping Tom Brady, and I mean that's kind of one of those things that, in the Super Bowl especially, we know what Brady can do going last year with that comeback he had against the Falcons. So they're just going to have to play shutdown defense all game, and Foles is going to pretty much have to be perfect and just hit his guys and, get them to the victory. It's what they're going to have to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's going to be hard for them, though, and that's why, personally, I have the Patriots going in this one. I just think, can you ever count against Tom Brady? It's hard to bet against that guy because it seems that every time that his team is down and out, he's figuring out a way to win the game no matter how much just time is left on the clock. And like we said, we saw that last year. I think there is one way, I think the biggest way that the Eagles can stop the Patriots is by, stopping the run. If they can keep the Patriots pretty one-dimensional, it could be a better game. And in 2 of the 3 Super Bowls that the Patriots were held under 100 yards, they did not win those Super Bowls. Those were both against the Giants. The only game they did win was against the Seahawks, and as we know, that was basically a miracle on the goal line there. So I think it'll definitely be a close game, but if they can stop the run, who knows what can happen. Alex, what do you think the key factor is in this one?
Well, I think you both made excellent points, and obviously everybody's talking about the Eagles' front line, but I think where this could be a problem for them is if they blitz too aggressively, the Patriots are going to be expecting it, and the best way to beat a blitz is to just hit guys over the top, and Gronkowski is your number 1 guy on this team, and he is probably the most dominant for that type of situation. And if they're not going to be able to get double coverage or get 2 guys wrapped around him and they're going to be blitzing too hard, he's going to get a lot of single coverage, and that could be a problem. On the other side, of course, the Eagles, and I think the big key here is being able to run the ball, and they are a better running team statistically than the Patriots. And the Falcons, of course, in last year's Super Bowl, they were running the ball effectively for a good portion of the game, and I think that was the key as to why they had built that lead. It was when they got away from running the ball that they really started to get into trouble. I think Belichick is really going to make it tough for this offense to throw the ball for Nick Foles. He's going to give him as much time as he wants, but he's going to make those windows really tight. And so the Eagles have to be able to run the ball successfully and do it throughout the game. It's going to be a close game either way, I think, but I think it'll come down to special teams, and I give the edge to the Patriots in special teams as well, especially since Darren Sproles isn't around for the Eagles. I think he would be a big difference if he were around.
So quarterback-wise, you obviously mentioned Foles a little bit there. Foles and Brady, how do you think the two of them, stack up against each other? Obviously, Brady's he's a 5-time Super Bowl champion. He's no stranger to this stage, and Foles, getting his first chance. How do you think that the two of them can stack up?
Well, that's an interesting matchup, of course, and this is the league that is centered around the quarterback, and this is a pretty good matchup. I think not much is expected of Foles because he's never been there before, and here's the thing, though. I'm secretly deep down, I'm kind of rooting for the guy because he is from Texas, and I like my Texas quarterbacks. So I do want to see him play well. But they're both going to be feeling pressure, of course, as I've said over the last couple of weeks. But Brady's been there enough to where I think he just handles it better because he's dealt with it, more often. So
yeah, we've got some of the stats here on the screen, and it's pretty obvious to see which one is the better quarterback, which one has the more experience, and which one is touted to play better, but as we know, the game isn't played on paper. And the Eagles have been underdogs this whole postseason because they lost Carson Wentz. And they've kind of adapted to that. They've kind of taken that and made it their thing. Do you think that in this game, playing with that chip on the shoulder, do you think that helps in any way? You think that makes a difference?
It could possibly. I think, like you said, that is a good point that they have been the underdog, but they were playing at home in those two games, and I think maybe people were just really underestimating how good they play at home. But here you're going to a neutral field over in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and so I don't think they're going to have that home advantage this time. And so I think that may have been the difference in those two games, that they were playing at home and they play well at home. Another factor, of course, and it's kind of an interesting thing, is that when a team comes off of a blowout, they're more likely to underperform in the following game. So I would expect early on the Eagles to have a little bit of a problem getting things going early. And just going back to something John Madden has pointed out every year, if you have a chance to get the ball first in the Super Bowl, do not take it, because nobody rarely ever scores on their first possession. Try to get that ball second if you want to get the first points.
All right. Let's change the pace up a little bit in terms of the excitement going into this game. Obviously a ton of hype, especially here in New England with the Patriots. And let's take a look at a video of Tom Brady from earlier this week, kind of hyping up the fans here in New England.
Thank you guys. Listen, thank you guys for your support all year. It's been an incredible journey. We got one more to go. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of hard work. We're playing a great team, but I'll tell you what, we got a locker room full of guys that are ready for the challenge. And I know we obviously can't bring you all to Minnesota with us. Maybe some of you can come, but you guys are with us. We know that. You know that. We all know that. Patriot Nation stronger than ever. We got one more to go. We're going to go out there and try to win it for you guys. And that's all we got. We love you. Patriots out!
Another old mic drop and all.
It's just... That's the thing now. That's what people do. You got Mamba out with Kobe, now Patriots out with Brady. I guess it's a pretty good way to pump up the crowd. Everybody loves that now. But speaking on Tom Brady specifically, not on that video, but on his career, if he wins this Super Bowl, does he step away from the game?
Well, and we've talked about this before, and I think it's really hard to say because there hasn't really been a lot of whispering or a lot of discussion from he or Belichick or anybody close to Brady about the fact that he might be considering retirement. We heard earlier this year that he said he wanted to play until he's 45. That remains to be seen. But, I think if these two guys, talking about the coach and of course Brady, if they win this Super Bowl, that's 2 in a row, I think pride is going to really motivate them to try and go for that 3rd in a row because it's never been done before. I think actually, and I said this before and I'll say it again, if they lose, I think there's a greater chance they may step away because it's just so much to think about trying to come back and do it all over again off of a loss like that. But either way, Brady's, I think, in my estimation, the greatest quarterback to ever play in the NFL, whether he's 6-2 or 5-3. I think he'll be 6-2, but it's something I think that we need as a story to talk about going right after the Super Bowl. So that'll be something to see if they say anything.
Yes or no? Do you think Tom Brady's going to be the Super Bowl MVP?
He's done it 4 times, and obviously those coming out of 4 of the 5 wins. but I'm kind of interested to see if somebody else gets it. You know, Gronkowski's been such an important part of this team offensively, and you know he's been cleared from a concussion a week ago. If he's the number one guy and this Eagles defense is going to blitz like crazy and that's the go-to guy, maybe they give it to a wide receiver this time. Well, so maybe I'll just throw that out there and say Gronkowski gets MVP this time.
Well, coming up on Sports Buzz, we're going to be talking NBA trades and all of the action that's been going on this week there. So stay tuned for more after this. Sports Buzz is brought to you by The Vitamin Shop. With over 300 locations nationwide, shopping has never been easier. Use a convenient store locator or shop online at vitaminshop.com. Welcome back to Sports Buzz. Let's get right into things here. We're going to be talking about the NBA. Gino, a lot been going on this week.
Yeah, absolutely, Cody. There's been a lot of news in the NBA. The NBA is better than a reality TV show at this point right now. You know, you had the whole Clippers locker room situation, and now we have some more news from the Clippers and them trading Blake Griffin, which was a crazy, crazy trade. You know, I think a lot of people expected him to be traded, you know, sometime soon at this deadline, even possibly. But being that it wasn't even the trade deadline, it was amazing that it happened so quickly and came together so quickly. And the Clippers got a good return for that pick. So for Blake Griffin and the players they sent over to Detroit. So good moves there. And then Nikola Mirotic went from the Bulls and went from the Bulls to the name's escaping me right now. I can't think of the name of the team that Mirotic went to, but he made a huge impact for them when he was on the court. And the team was, I believe, 14-11 with him on the court and 4-22 without him on the court. So an impact player there. And he went to the Pelicans. That's the name of the team. So he'll be there to help out Davis after the Boogie Cousins injury. How are you feeling about these two? You feel the same way? You feeling a little different?
Yeah, I mean, I think you put it best, saying that the NBA. I mean, you know, it's a weird time right now, and with a lot of different moves going on. So, I mean, definitely some impact players right there. I mean, especially if you look at a guy like Griffin. I mean, he's been there for so long, and he's been kind of a staple there. So, definitely a franchise-changing move right there. And you know, we'll see. It might be, you know, maybe they'll have a bright future, and you know, it'll end up where they get some good returns, like you said, on you know, what they got back.
Yeah, they got a couple picks, and it was interesting because Blake Griffin found out like the rest of us on Twitter, and here we have a little tape. Here's what he's had to say about it.
Yeah, shocked is a good way to put it. I didn't know anything. I pretty much found out when everybody else found out. So, yeah, it just kind of took a second to realize, okay, like everything's changing, you know. But you know, immediately once you get over that, and I got a chance to talk to Stan. Was it Monday night? Was that the day that I don't know what day it is? I got a chance to talk to him, and you know, once you start talking basketball, then your mind kind of switches into that mode. And now, you know, I went on Synergy that night and looked at some clips and kind of familiarized myself with this team a little bit better.
Well, there you have it. He was clearly very shocked, did not know about the deal. How does the media and the world today, Twitter, you know, being such a prevalent part of our society, affect how players are now finding out about trades and how they're being affected by the trades and whatnot?
Well, I mean, information definitely travels just so much quicker now. And I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen this where a player's finding out from, whether it be social media or something else, before they find it out officially from the team or their agent or whoever's going to be kind of telling them about that. So it's one of those things that just in today's day and age, it's definitely something that's becoming more prevalent. I mean, you know, like looking at baseball, you had Wilmer Flores of the Mets a couple years ago catch wind of something in the middle of a game from somebody, and you know, that trade didn't end up going through, but it's just information travels so much quicker. One
thing with the Blake trade, and one of the reasons that they actually said that they were going to trade him, or a report came out, was that one of the big red flags was his knee and a possible knee injury. And injuries have played a big part already in the NBA season, as we saw Boogie Cousins go down with an injury about a few nights ago, if not a week ago. Isaiah Cannon went down with an injury last night. Gordon Hayward, of course, at the beginning of the year. How does an injury affect a team, especially this late in the season?
Well, I mean, that could be game-changing for, really any of these teams that are going down the stretch and have, hopes of getting deep into the playoffs. You lose one of those frontline guys. I mean, basketball is one of those sports that you can't just put anybody in there to kind of fill that hole. So, it could be something that changes the whole dynamic of a season depending on, the length of the injury, obviously. I mean, are they going to miss a few games, or are we looking at somebody who's going to miss the rest of the season, obviously? So it's one of those things that definitely could just kind of change the whole dynamic.
Yeah, and with those injuries, as we mentioned, Blake Griffin wasn't the only person traded in this specific trade. How important is it to have those role players, those bench players, in case of injury? How important is it right now for top teams to trade for role players, or are they looking more for superstars at this point in time?
Well, I think it's definitely important to have that bench there because, you figure even these frontline players aren't going to play every minute of the game, and it's going to, you still have those quality minutes that you're going to have with your second-tier guys in there. So while it's important, I think, to have maybe a star or two on your lineup and to kind of have those big game, playmakers, you're definitely going to want to have a bench there that you can kind of rely on, especially if, there should be an injury or something where you have somebody step in and you're at least getting, some quality time on the court at that point.
Well, it'll certainly be an interesting rest of the season. It'll be an interesting trade deadline as that approaches. We're going to take a quick break, but coming up after that, we're going to have our very own college basketball analyst in to talk a little college basketball, and then, of course, some Premier League talk as the January transfer window closes. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Buzz. Joining us now is our college basketball analyst, Professor Will Mayer. Will, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Gino. How are you?
I'm doing well, and college basketball, one of my favorite sports, and about this time is when things start really heating up. We've had a great season so far, some standout players. Can you just, from your professional opinion, as you are in the field of sports psychology, how do players like Trae Young, these big top players that are playing so well, handle themselves in the spotlight and not get overwhelmed?
Well, it's a very good question, and one of the things that makes the question even more, it's one, difficult to answer, but more of an amazing feat of how they're doing it is the top players in college basketball right now are all freshmen. So we're talking about 18, 19 years old. Trae Young, I think, is 18. Maybe he's turned 19. Marvin Bagley III at Duke. Reclassified. He's supposed to be a senior in high school right now. So he's there playing at Duke. These guys are dominating college sports. What they're doing, though, with it is they are completely evolving each game with how they handle themselves on the court is also what happens how they handle themselves off the court. What I mean by that is they're very much trying to figure out how to play within the team. In high school, they dominated everything. Now they have players around them. How does that actually work? They're focused one game at a time more than anything. It's very much of a cliche, but that is really how you're going to bring these top players along.
Yeah, what you said is right on point in the sense that these guys are all freshmen. They're 4 or 5 years younger than me now at this point, and it's crazy how they're playing at these top levels for these big programs. And one of the things that comes with those big programs, especially in those top 10 teams, is pressure.
Yep.
And that's a big thing that weighs on these younger players especially. How do they what kind of pressure are they facing, and how does the media and the fans like us affect the way they play day in and day out?
Well, one of the things you have to remember about all of these, they are freshmen, but they have been playing high-level basketball for years in the AAU circuit. They've been in recruiting sites. They've been hearing their own hype for years. Marvin Bagley would be a really good example of that. Trae Young came a little bit by surprise, so he's kind of learning on the fly. But they're learning more how to handle sitting in front of a microphone. But it's not brand new to them. They've been doing this for a while. And you'd say, well, high school kids, yeah, they've been playing high-level, all-star. Many of them played in world games against other members of the world, which is kind of like a Junior Olympics type of thing. And so they're more and more savvy. Now, on social media, the more any athlete starts to pay attention to social media, the more they're going to get themselves in trouble. These guys are evolving, just like society is, on trying to figure out how not to look at the comment section and how very much to kind of stay within themselves. All of them have one trait or one combined trait, and that is that their combined competitiveness and their confidence in themselves. So none of them, despite their age, are lacking in that, and that's partially what keeps them grounded. That and the coaching that they get as well.
Real quick, before we jump to my next question, which we will talk about the coaching a little bit, as we take a look at some of the power rankings here in the top teams, do you think that they're better able to handle pressure now with this YouTube sensation thing in the media today, where these high school players are being hyped up from basically the day they hit sophomore, junior year of high school?
Yeah, I mean, that's the world we live in. So they're used to this. If you think of I know we're talking about college basketball, but if you think of LeBron James, it started when he was in high school, but that's also when social media started. So he's lived with it. These guys have all grown up with it. So they've had to manage this. They were all big man on campus when they were in high school, and so they've had to manage this from the beginning. College basketball is a completely different dynamic than it was years ago because of all the freshmen dominating, because there are very few upperclassmen that are as skilled, because at this point they've left to go to the NBA.
It's great having you here, especially in this time. March Madness is coming up. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
We have to take a quick break, but coming up after that break, we have the Premier League with all the transfer news from the past window. Sports Buzz is brought to you by Berkshire Hathaway. Prudential Home and Sale is now Berkshire Hathaway. New name, new look, and same great company.
And welcome back to Sports Buzz. We're going to switch gears a little bit and talk Premier League soccer. So, Gino, obviously there's been a lot of action going on right now. Which team had the best transfer window, in this past little stretch that they had?
It was definitely interesting, but I think one team stands out above them all, and that's Arsenal, which is pretty surprising because Arsenal doesn't really like to spend too much money ever. But they bought some really good players and got rid of some players that they really didn't need. They bought Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang from Borussia Dortmund, who is a fantastic striker, as well as Henrik Mkhitaryan, a player who played with Aubameyang not too long ago, had about, I think he had 25 assists when he was there, and then Aubameyang had 40 goals. So that matchup is definitely going to help them. And then they got rid of Alexis Sanchez, who was more or less a cancer to the team while he was there. And then just a team that I think also had a very good transfer window, not the best, but Newcastle brought in Islam Slimani and Kennedy on loan from Chelsea. Those are two players that can help them get out of the relegation zone.
So in your opinion, with all the business done this past month, how does Manchester City stack up with the other teams in the league?
It definitely gets a little closer now. I think it definitely gets a little bit closer because City did make a good addition in their defense with adding Laporte, but they did lose Leroy Sané and failed to get Riyad Mahrez, both wingers. So that's going to be an interesting next month for them, as they are 15 points up right now in the standings on everybody else. But I still think that they're the best team, but I think the gap's closed a little bit. Do I think they fall off and eventually lose the Premier League? No. I think 15 points is a pretty big gap, especially with only 13 games remaining. All
right. Well, that's about all we got for you tonight on Sports Buzz. Thank you for both of our guest analysts this week, talking both NFL and college basketball. I'm Cody Jones. This is Gino Cannell. That's all we have for you. See you next week on Sports Buzz.